Water shot in just right. Who could that be ringing? I suppose I'd better answer it. Hello? Oh, hello. No, I can't now. I'm running my bath. Ring again in half an hour. Yes, all right. You would have to phone at this time. Enough water. Who's there? Who is it? You? What the devil are you doing here? No. Get out. Get out, I tell you. Let me go.
BBC presents A Case for Dr. Morelle, another adventure by Ernest Dudley, with Cecil Parker as the famous Dr. Morelle and Sheila Sim as his secretary, Miss Frayle. The Will.
Hello, this is Dr. Morelle's house.
Roses. These roses.
What?
Roses. These roses.
What?
There's a bowl of roses on the breakfast table in the center. I can't get my breath.
Who is that?
It's Mr. Beaumont, David Beaumont. Tell Dr. Morelle.
Yes, Dr. Morelle.
What is it, Miss Frayle?
It's Mr. Beaumont. He sounds very ill.
I'll speak to him. Dr. Morelle here.
I'm choking to death, Doctor. This asthma. Someone put roses on the table and...
Take the adrenaline injection I prescribed for you.
I have, but it doesn't help. I got to see you.
Very well.
I'll come right away.
Poor Mr. Beaumont, it must be dreadful for him. What causes this asthma, Doctor?
Well, asthma is a spasmodic condition of the tubes or bronchi that lead to the lungs. The patient is unable to exhale the dead air and feels that he is suffocating.
Well, how can roses give him asthma? They're such lovely flowers.
The symbol of love, eh, Miss Frayle?
Oh, I wasn't thinking of them in that way, Doctor.
Never mind so long as you think of them.
What do you mean?
He has been an unresponsive patient. Now the moment has arrived to accelerate the treatment. Hurry out at once and buy some roses.
Roses, Dr. Morelle? For me?
Get them from Finlayson's in Oxford Street.
Finlayson? But, Doctor...
3 dozen roses. Red roses which symbolize love and romance to you, but which to Mr. Beaumont symbolize suffocation.
Oh, you want me to get them right away?
Yes, before Mr. Beaumont arrives.
Yes, Dr. Morelle. That'll be Mr. Beaumont.
Is Dr. Morelle?
He's waiting for you, Mr. Beaumont. I do hope you're feeling better.
Yes, thanks, but I really thought I'd had it that time.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, I felt as if I'd never get my breath.
Come this way. Mr. Beaumont, Dr. Morelle.
Come in. All right, Miss Frayle. Sit down, won't you?
Those roses.
What?
Those roses on your desk.
Oh, Miss Frayle must have put them there. How careless of her.
I can't breathe. The perfume. I'm choking. Give me a shot, Doctor. Adrenaline.
Relax, Mr. Beaumont. Relax.
I'll choke to death.
I'll give you a hypodermic.
Oh, this asthma.
Let me help you off with your coat.
Thank you.
Under your cufflink.
Yes.
Your sleeve a bit higher.
Hurry, Doctor.
Now, that's it. Now try and relax.
Oh, yes, that's better. I really thought I was going to die.
Death, the necessary end, will come when it will come.
How were those roses left there when you were expecting me?
I must reprimand Miss Frayle for her carelessness. According to her, they symbolize romance. Look at this one.
No, really, What? It's made of paper.
Precisely. A paper rose. They're all paper roses.
But I don't understand. You mean...
Miss Frayle has just brought them back from a shop in Oxford Street. Very realistic, don't you think?
Paper roses, not real roses at all.
No more than the adrenaline in the hypodermic injection. It was merely sterile water.
Water?
Paper roses and water.
But what are you getting at? What does this mean?
It means that your asthma attacks are not the result of an allergy to roses. They are caused by a neurosis.
A fear of something you are afraid to reveal.
Fear?
Therefore, the next step, Mr. Beaumont, is to discover what it is you are frightened of.
It was 7 or 8 weeks ago, Dr. Morelle. I'd gone up to Uncle Herbert's bedroom. He wasn't there. The bathroom door was open, and quite by chance I glanced in. And there he was in the bath. He'd slipped and hit his head. I started to pull him out, and then this extraordinary sensation came over me.
An overwhelming compulsion to leave him as he was.
Everything flashed through my mind. The fact that his will was in my favor, and that by leaving him, I wouldn't really be guilty of having murdered him.
But in fact, you got your uncle out of the bath.
Yes. I carried him into the bedroom, and within a few minutes he'd recovered and was perfectly all right. I left a couple of hours later and got a taxi home. It was dark, and I hadn't been in the taxi long when I noticed the scent roses. And then the rose became absolutely overpowering. I had to stop the taxi. In the corner was a bunch of roses. They'd been left there by the previous passenger. By now I was almost choking to death. And I had to get another taxi to take home.
At last we are arriving at the truth.
Yes, I know I've not been very frank with you.
This was the first asthmatic attack which you attributed to roses?
That first attack passed off. But that night I couldn't sleep. I kept on realizing how near death my uncle had been. And it would have been my fault.
Shall we say your uncle's will plays an important part in the matter?
It's because he keeps on changing it. Sometimes he gets the idea that he'll leave the lot to me. Another time he changes his mind and leaves it all to Aunt Henrietta. Then he'll get another idea and leave half to us each. Or he'll decide he ought to leave some to Darrell, the manservant, who's been with him about 12 years. It's almost a joke. Except there's nothing very funny about being left £20,000.
And even less amusing not to be left it.
Oh, he drives old Coghill, his lawyer, up the wall.
What is your aunt's reaction to all this?
Well, she's pretty eccentric, too. I tell you, that old house is like something you've never seen. Aunt Henrietta, obsessed with her aviary of tropical birds, and Uncle, who spends hours totting up how much money he has and deciding who's to get it when he dies.
No one else occupies the house?
Only Darrell, the manservant I mentioned. How he copes, I just don't know. Except that there's the chance he'll collect several thousand. In fact, he might get the lot.
And you are a frequent visitor to the house?
Oh, yes, I'm always in and out. My flat's only the other side of Wimbledon Common. They're lonely and, well, no one else ever goes to see them.
Your motive for giving this eccentrical couple pleasure of your company would be purely disinterested?
Yes.
Oh. Come now, Mr. Beaumont. You've made it clear that you might inherit a large sum of money upon your uncle's death. Obviously, you are profoundly inhibited by the prospect.
I might as well confess it, Dr. Morelle.
Confession is good for the soul, Mr. Beaumont.
I am flat broke. Oh, I tried to hold down half a dozen jobs in the past couple of years without success.
So your visits to the house at Wimbledon are quite calculated?
I suppose you might say so.
There is precious little supposition about it. You are doing your utmost to remain in your uncle's affections in the hope that you will benefit by his death.
In my secret heart, yes.
It is into your secret heart that we are seeing. There lie your subconscious guilt complexes and your obsessive fancy that roses give you asthma.
What can I do to help myself?
Concentrate your mind more upon trying to obtain some employment which will make you independent of any legacy.
All right. I'll pull myself together and see if I can land a job and stick to it.
Dr. Morelle?
Mr. Beaumont is just going, Miss Frayle. He'll be ringing up for an appointment in a week's time.
Thanks, Doctor, very much for all you've done. And, well, I'll try and sort myself out.
Goodbye, Mr. Beaumont.
There you are. We must cover you up for the night.
Are you there, Henrietta?
Yes? What is it you want?
Henrietta, where are you?
I'm here, Herbert. What do you want?
Henrietta! Oh, there you are.
What do you want?
Oh, dear, I've been looking all over. You can't hear a thing with these blessed birds.
Is it anything important?
Of course it's important. Otherwise I wouldn't want to talk to you about
Well,
it.
I'll be with you in a minute.
All right, I can't talk here with all this noise.
I won't be long, Herbert.
I'm going to the sitting room.
Well, I'll come in a minute. Now, sweet. Yeah, it's time to go to sleep. Now, Now, what is it, Herbert?
Ah, there you are, Henrietta.
What do you want to talk to me about?
Yes. Oh, no, yes. It's about David.
David, what about him? Do hurry up. I've got to talk to Darrell about dinner. All I shall want is a little consommé, but I think you want an omelette.
Do you realize he's only been to see us once in the last week?
Who?
David, of course.
Oh,
Not like him at all. He used to be here almost every day.
personally, I'm very glad.
But I thought you liked him.
Of course I like David. Isn't he my nephew?
He's my nephew, too.
Oh.
Why doesn't he come and see us as much as he used to?
For the reason he's given us, I hope. He's trying to get himself a job.
You really believe that?
Yes, of course.
He's had other jobs, and none of them have done any good.
And do you want to know why, Herbert? Because he was thinking of the money he'll get from you.
Oh, what absolute exaggeration.
Now, you know you enjoy having this power over him, of being able to leave him money or not as you wish.
I don't know what you're chattering about.
You may be an eccentric old man.
You're a fine one to talk, those blessed tropical birds.
Well, I don't deny it, but I haven't £20,000 to leave when I die.
You will have if I die first and leave the lot to you.
I don't care whether I get your money or not, and you know it. It doesn't give me any sleepless nights, but that was why David couldn't hang on to his jobs, and I hope he's realized it at last. It's bad for him to rely on you.
But why shouldn't I change my will as often as I like? If it amuses me so to do.
No reason at all. It's your money.
In any case, that wasn't what I wanted to talk to you about. It was David not coming to see us so much. What is it?
I thought I heard someone outside the door.
Huh?
What is it, Darrell?
Nothing, miss.
Well, what were you doing? Tying up your shoelace?
I wanted to ask you about dinner tonight.
All right. I'll come and talk to you. An omelette for you, Herbert?
Yes, Henrietta.
Now, I shall have some consommé, Darrell. Mr. Vickers will have an omelette.
All this talk about wills and dying. Why, I feel good enough for another 20 years.
I don't know about you, Herbert, but I'm going to bed.
What's the time?
It's just striking 9. I was up early this morning.
Will you require anything further tonight?
No, thank you, Darrell.
You can lock up.
Very good, miss.
No, Darrell.
Yes, sir.
Before you go into town tomorrow morning, come along to the study, will you? I want you to witness a document for me.
Very well, sir.
Oh, and if you'd ask Mrs. What's her name? The Daily Help.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes. I want her, too, as the other witness.
Very good, sir.
Mr. Coghill will be here.
Then you'll want coffee, sir.
Oh, yes, he must have his cup of coffee. You've quite got to know his habits.
Well, Mr. Coghill's been coming here quite often.
That's what my sister's complaining of. Henrietta? Doesn't like lawyers. Oh, good night, Darrell.
Good night, sir. Good night, miss.
Good night, Darrell.
Good night, Darrell. So, you're going to change your precious will again?
I might.
No, I'll just go and see that my birds are safe, then I'm off to bed.
No, good night, dear.
Don't you fall asleep and set fire to yourself with that cigar.
I'll be going to bed myself in a few moments.
Good night, then.
I'll go and run my bath. Wonder what suits to put on tomorrow. Must look smart for old Coghill. My tweed jacket. No, I think the black suit. Or will that look as if I'm in mourning? Perhaps not quite the thing for discussing my will. No, I think I'll put on the brown suit. Bath should be ready now. Water's hot enough. Just wait. Oh, dear me, who could that be ringing? I suppose I'd better answer it. Hello? Oh, hello. No, I can't now. I'm running my bath. Ring again in half an hour. All right, yes, goodbye. Would have to phone at a time like this. That's enough water. Ah, please. Who's there? Who is it? You? What the devil are you doing here? Get out! Get out, I tell you! Don't let me go! Let go!
Hello, Dr. Morelle's house?
It's Mr. Beaumont, Miss Frayle.
Oh, yes, Mr. Beaumont.
Could I speak to Dr. Morelle? It's very urgent.
All right, Mr. Beaumont. He's in the laboratory. Will you hold on, please? Dr. Morelle?
Ah, Miss Frayle, I wanted to ask you about these slides which have been under this microscope.
It's Mr. Beaumont.
The blood specimens which I had for examination.
Mr. Beaumont's on the telephone.
Beaumont? At this time of night?
He says it's very urgent.
Well, I'll speak to him. Did he sound as if troubled again by asthma?
No, but he's very agitated.
Dr. Morelle here.
This is David Beaumont. It's my uncle. He's just been found dead in his bath.
Where are you speaking from, Mr. Beaumont?
My uncle's house at Wimbledon. Can you come over as soon as possible?
Did you discover your uncle?
No, it was my aunt.
Where were you at the time?
Well, that's just it. You see, it was just as I called at the house on my way to my flat that it happened. But I didn't do it, Dr. Morelle. I didn't do it.
I'll come once. Miss Frayle.
Yes, Dr. Morelle?
Is it a very pleasant night for a drive?
Not especially. There's a bit of a wind and the forecast said rain.
What a pity.
Why?
Because we're driving to Wimbledon immediately.
Those look like the gates, Dr. Morelle, just ahead.
Then we'll turn in there.
Yes. Yes, I can read the name of the house in the headlight. It looks a tumble-down place, from what I can see of it in the dark. There's someone at the door.
Doubtless Mr. Beaumont will be waiting for us. Come along, Miss Frayle.
Oh, it's blowing up for a storm, all right. Look at the clouds across the moon.
Thank goodness you've come, Dr. Morelle. Hello, Miss Frayle.
I'm awfully sorry to hear your news.
Come in, please. Come upstairs to Uncle's bedroom. I'll lead the way.
Where is your aunt?
In her own room. The shock proved a bit much for her.
Poor thing.
When she found Uncle, she called Darrell and they got him out of the bath. Darrell tried artificial respiration, but it was no good. However, you'd better see him for yourself. In here, Doctor. We got him onto the bed.
Yes. I fear your uncle is dead, Mr. Beaumont.
We did our best to revive him.
What was the time approximately when your aunt discovered him?
Just before I phoned you.
That was about 11:15.
Yes. He had his bath just after 9. The water was cold.
Has the bath been emptied?
No.
I'd like to test the water.
By all means.
Wait here, Miss Frayle.
Yes, Dr. Morelle.
Shall I come with you?
If you wish. The bathroom windows are closed and there's a certain amount of condensation. As you say, it is cold. How is the water heated?
By an immersion heater. The tank's inside this cupboard. There's another bathroom, the other end of the passage, near Aunt's room.
I see.
Dr. Morelle, the reason I sent for you is that... Well, don't you see...
No need to explain the obvious. You fear that you will be suspected of being concerned with your uncle's death.
But if he's altered his will in my favor, as he may have done, it'll look black against me.
You're taking a somewhat hysterical viewpoint. Plenty of evidence will be forthcoming to show whether or not death was the result of natural causes. Let us return to the... The assumption is that your uncle suffered a heart attack while having his bath.
Or that he just fainted.
That would appear to be unlikely.
Why, Doctor? What do you mean?
Had he fainted, he would presumably have fallen back against the bath. Water entering his mouth or nose as a result would bring him out of his fainting attack.
You mean he must have slipped like he did that other time and struck his head?
In this case, there is no evidence of bruising.
Well, then it must have been his heart.
Well, has he ever been affected by such an attack before?
No, I don't think so.
I can see no external indication that he suffered from any heart condition.
What are you saying?
Dr. Morelle,
I'm saying nothing, beyond that there seems to be no evidence so far to suggest the cause of death. The post-mortem may reveal something significant. Perhaps I could see your aunt.
Yes, I'll take you to her.
Miss Frayle.
Yes, Doctor?
Would you telephone about a doctor?
Yes.
I'll give you the phone number of Uncle's doctor.
Oh, thank you.
What about the police?
We may leave that for the moment.
All right. Aunt Henrietta's room is this way.
I said good night to Herbert an hour and a half before Dr. Morelle and had gone to bed.
But you got up and went to see him again for some reason?
It was this ridiculous business of his constantly changing his will.
Yes, I know something of this idiosyncrasy from your nephew.
I told him before dinner how upsetting it was to people who might be left money. Sometimes one particular person was going to benefit, and then for no reason at all he'd alter the will, and that person would be cut clean out. The whole thing was quite ludicrous.
Do you know if the present will affects you, for instance?
Frankly, no, and I'd got tired of caring. But David had become profoundly affected by prospects of being left all this money. Then after dinner, Herbert made it clear he was going to change his will again. He told Darrell, his manservant, that his lawyer would be coming over in the morning and that he'd want Darrell and the Daily Health as witnesses.
The manservant was a beneficiary under the present will?
Herbert had told him that he'd left him £5,000.
Quite a large sum of money.
And my brother had also said to me that David was to get the rest. 15,000 plus this house when I died.
I see.
Oh, dear, I was worried about him changing the will again. I'd asked him to stop all this nonsense because it was upsetting David. So I went along to his room. The bathroom door was open and I went in and found him. I shouted Darrell, and together we got him out of the bath.
And it so happened that about this time your nephew called?
He was on his way home, and he stopped to come in and see us. It was a terrible shock for him, almost as if he felt he himself was in some way responsible for what had happened. Will you see that he gets the message as soon as he returns, please? It's most urgent. Thank you. Oh, there you are, Dr. Morelle. The doctor's out on a case, but I've left a message for him to come out as soon as possible.
Thank you, Miss Frayle.
Dr. Morelle?
What is it?
I was thinking how strong the perfume was from this bowl of roses.
Their scent is a trifle overpowering.
Dr. Morelle, Darrell is coming along now to see you.
Good. I require a few words with him.
I'll go and see how Aunt Henrietta is, unless you want me to stay here.
No.
I thought I might ask her to help me get some tea or coffee. It would occupy her mind.
An excellent suggestion.
Oh, here is Darrell. I'll be back in a few minutes.
You wish to speak to me, Dr. Morelle?
There are one or two matters you might be able to clear up.
If I can, Doctor, I will, of course.
Doctor, what's that bowl of roses got to do with it?
With what, Miss Frayle?
Oh, nothing. It was just an idea of mine.
Darrell, you assisted Miss Vickers to get her brother out of the bath.
That's right. I heard her calling out for help, and I hurried along to the bathroom.
Where were you at the time?
I was in my own room, getting ready to go to bed.
How long have you been in Mr. Vickers' employment?
Getting on for 12 years.
Would you say that he thought highly of you?
I'd like to think so, sir. Poor old gentleman. I was devoted to him.
Yes, and he appreciated your devotion to the extent of making you a beneficiary under his will.
Well...
That is what I've been given to understand.
What I mean is that you didn't know where you stood with him. He cut you out of his will as quick as he put you in.
He must have been a very odd old gentleman.
He was, miss, a proper eccentric. About leaving his money, that is.
Had you ever known him suffer from giddiness or heart attacks?
I can't say I did, Doctor, but he was getting on a bit. I suppose the bath was too hot, and he must have fainted.
You don't really believe that, do you?
How do you mean? What else could it be?
It is hardly conceivable for anyone to drown as a result of a fainting attack while taking a bath. The position in which Miss Vickers found the body, lying back against the bath, precludes that idea. At the same time, there appears to be no external evidence that Vickers suffered from a heart condition.
Perhaps he fell and knocked himself out.
I could find no bruises suggestive of that.
Then what?
One other alternative offers itself.
What?
Murder.
Dr. Morelle, you don't believe that he...
Oh, want to murder Mr. Vickers?
Murder?
That is a question for the police. Miss Frayle,
Yes, Doctor.
if you would put a call through to the local police station.
Yes, Dr. Morelle.
Did you, Darrell, observe the marks round the deceased's ankles?
His ankles? No, I didn't notice anything.
Marks on his ankle.
As if they'd been grasped by someone lifting up the legs, so that he was suddenly submerged.
Who'd do a thing like that?
Someone who, for instance, learned that he was about to alter his will, cutting them out, where otherwise they would have benefited.
Dr. Morelle, if poor Mr. Vickers was gripped by the ankles, there'll be fingerprints.
Fingerprints?
That was just what I was about to explain.
Fingerprints on a wet skin?
And fingerprints never lie. They may be invisible to the naked eye, but they are there, placed there by the murderer's own hands, whose psychic excitement in the commission of the crime is increased 100-fold.
Why are you staring at me?
Those latent fingerprints, chemically more permanent than they might be ordinarily. Permanent enough to withstand water, however hot, up to 500 degrees centigrade.
I suppose I dial low and get the exchange.
Put down that phone.
What?
Put it down. I'll wipe you out, too.
Oh.
I wasn't going to let that old fool cut me out again.
So it was you. Oh, Mr. Beaumont.
Darrell, it was you.
Oh, Dr. Morelle.
That should keep him quiet until the police arrive.
He's out cold.
Oh, Dr. Morelle, you've saved me.
Darrell, but how did you know? What put you onto him?
Miss Frayle can explain.
It came to me in a flash.
It's very brave of you not to move from the phone.
Oh, Dr. Morelle asked me to get the police, and I always obey his instructions.
But you haven't obeyed, Miss Frayle.
Oh, no. In the excitement, I quite forgot. Oh, the way you caught him with that bowl of roses, Dr. Morelle.
Pretty quick of you.
Well, I was grateful to you for distracting his attention.
I came back to ask which you'd prefer, tea or coffee.
Oh, tea, please. Dr. Morelle and I always have tea when we work late at night.
Are you getting on to the police, Miss Frayle?
Yes, I'm just about to, Doctor.
Let me do it, Miss Frayle.
Oh, thank you. I do feel a bit sort of overexcited.
Exchange? Put me on to Wimbledon Police Station.
Yes, Doctor. I suddenly realized that he must have left fingerprints when he gripped the poor old man's ankles.
He was certainly under that impression, too.
What do you mean? You agreed with me. You said how even hot water wouldn't remove them. Up to 500 degrees centigrade.
I took advantage of the fear your observation obviously aroused in him.
But
Fingerprints can remain after immersion in hot water, but they do not even appear on the surface of human skin.
if it wasn't the hint I gave you, what was
The
it?
police are on their way, and quickly.
Good.
What was it made you realize it was him?
Well, your uncle had asked Darrell to witness the changed will tomorrow. He knew at once that he was being cut out of the present one, which left him £5,000. No one can witness a will from which they may benefit.
Why, of course.
Oh, my idea about the fingerprints was all wrong.
I fear so, Miss Frayle. By the same reasoning, Mr. Beaumont, your aunt was obviously not implicated. For all she knew, she might benefit by the new will.
Yes, I see.
But the roses, that bowl of roses.
What about them?
Oh, don't they have some connection with what happened?
Only that Mr. Beaumont doesn't appear to have noticed their presence.
Why, that's true. I haven't.
Which merely proved to me that your fear that you might be responsible for your uncle's death was no longer present in your subconscious. Therefore, I knew that you, at least, Mr. Beaumont, had no guilty secret in connection with tonight's murder.
That was another adventure in a BBC series featuring Ernest and his famous character, Dr. Morelle, and, of course, his secretary, Miss Frayle. The artists taking part were Dr. Morelle, Cecil Parker, Miss Frayle, Sheila Sim, Herbert Vickers, Douglas Young, Henrietta Vickers, Nan Kenway, David Beaumont, David Spenser, Darrell, Will Leighton. This recorded program was produced by Leslie Bridgmont.
The jury are coming back.
Members of the jury, are you agreed upon your verdict?
We are.
Do you find the prisoner, Robert Benson, guilty or not guilty of murder?
Guilty.
You find the prisoner guilty, and that is the verdict of you all?
That is our unanimous verdict.
Prisoner at the bar, you stand convicted of murder. Have you anything to say why sentence of death should not be passed upon you according to law?
I'm innocent. I'm absolutely innocent. Robert James Benson, the sentence of the court upon you is that you be taken from this place to a lawful prison and thence to a place of execution. and that there you be hanged by the neck until you are dead.
The BBC presents A Case for Dr Morelle, another adventure by Ernest Dudley, with Cecil Parker as the famous Dr Morelle and Sheila Sim as his secretary, Miss Frayle. Act of Violence.
What a lonely road, Dr Morelle. It's difficult to realize we're only 30 miles from London.
Which, from my point of view, lends it an added attraction.
I always think that Essex is a bit cut off. Why are you slowing the car?
I feel positive that I'm following the directions given me by Professor Stenberg, but I'm not certain that he gave me the right ones to follow. What was it, Miss Frayle, that produced that profound sigh?
Oh, it must be marvellous always to feel so sure you're right and the other person must be wrong.
Professor Stenberg is a trifle absent-minded, while I have reason to remember this locality from a case with which I was concerned.
What was that, Doctor?
A rather sordid, lurid affair, which wouldn't interest you in the slightest. But I recall that there was a less devious road than this to Lower Ashton.
Oh, there's a garage ahead. How about asking there? I'll ask this man. Are we right for Lower Ashton, please?
Lower Ashton? Oh, you're going the long way round.
What's the matter?
Well, that is...
I somehow thought there was a shorter route.
That's right, sir, yes. Take the second turning on the right, and that'll cut off 3 miles.
Oh, you were right, Dr Morelle. Thank you. I'm sorry to have bothered you.
Anywhere in particular you want in Lower Ashton?
Professor Stenberg's house. Perhaps you know it.
You'd have gone miles past there. This other road, you can't miss it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, miss. Good afternoon, Doctor.
That was funny, wasn't it?
What, my dear Miss Frayle?
Well, that young man. The sudden look on his face, as if
what?
As if he'd seen a ghost.
I wasn't noticing anything particular.
Of course you were. I believe it was something to do with you.
What aroused that dark suspicion in your mind?
The way he acted. I've just thought of something.
What, again?
Don't you remember? He called you doctor. Now, how could he know that?
I fancy I can answer that without much difficulty.
How?
Because you addressed me as Dr Morelle in his hearing.
Oh, did I? Oh, well, that explains it.
This is the turning which should reduce our journey by 3 miles.
Oh, there are more houses now, Doctor. We shall soon be there.
I recollect this neighborhood.
Oh, yes, that case you mentioned. Look, there's a signpost. Lower Ashton, half a mile.
Thank you, Miss Frayle.
Oh, and do you see that poster? A concert at the village hall. What fun. Oh, look, Doctor, Robert Benson's performing.
So I observed. The young man at the garage.
That's what I was thinking.
But what, Miss Frayle?
I'm surprised at you, though.
Indeed.
Just because that's the name of the garage doesn't mean that it's his name.
Do go on.
Well, he could be an employee there.
I'm gratified that the balmy air hasn't dulled your sharp wits.
I expect you're a little overtired driving.
It so happens that I was already aware of his name.
Oh, so I was right then. He did recognize you.
I'm only surprised that he hasn't changed it.
What do you mean, Dr Morelle? Where was it you'd seen him?
In the dock at the Old Bailey.
Oh, what a lovely house it is, Doctor, with all that garden.
I'm glad you're impressed.
Oh, that's Professor Stenberg coming down the drive. Hello, Professor Stenberg.
How nice to see you again, Miss Frayle.
Lovely to see you, Professor.
Oh, it's very good of you to come, Dr Morelle.
Delighted, I'm sure.
Come in, Miss Frayle. The garage is at the back, Doctor. You'll find Staples, my man there. He'll take your cases up to your rooms.
I'll take the car round.
Oh, it's such a delightful old house.
I hope you'll enjoy your stay.
I know I will.
Come into this room. It overlooks the gardens.
Oh, what wonderful big windows.
I enjoy sitting here in the evening to listen to the birds. Sometimes at night you can hear the old owl hooting in the wood.
Oh, it must be a really wonderful spot.
It's most kind of Dr. Morelle to come down to discuss this one naughty problem with me.
I think it's lovely of you to ask me as well.
But you will want to go to your room, Your suitcase will be out there by now. Staples will have seen to that.
Thank you.
It is the room directly overhead. There's a balcony where you can sit if it's sunny.
Oh, thank you so much, Professor. I'll go on up.
Dinner will be at 7. There's Dr. Morelle in the garden. I'll tell him about his room. This way, Miss Frayle. Up the stairs and turn left.
Thank you.
I'll go and fetch the doctor. Dr. Morelle, how about a glass of sherry?
Oh, it's so quiet and peaceful after London. Extraordinary meeting that young man like that. I wish Dr. Morelle hadn't shut up like an oyster about it. He really can be very irritating sometimes. I'll just go out on the balcony before I go downstairs. Oh, what a lovely evening, isn't it? I feel like the balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet. Not that anyone's ever likely to mistake me for Juliet. Oh, what a pity Dr. Morelle isn't down in the garden. But there is someone there. It can't be Dr. Morelle. He's in his room. Perhaps it's the gardener. Why, he's looking up here. What is it?
I want to speak to you. Can't you nip down for a minute?
You're the man at the garage.
And you were with Dr. Morelle. You've got to tell me something.
And I thought it was going to be quiet and peaceful.
Better do what I say for Dr. Morelle's sake.
What?
I'm warning you.
Oh dear. All right. We'll wait there and I'll come down.
Here I am, miss.
Oh, there you are. Oh, for a moment I thought you'd gone.
You can't be seen from the house here.
We can be heard, and if you try anything, I'll scream my head off.
You know who I am. You know I'm Robert Benson, don't you?
Well, suppose you are.
And Dr. Morelle recognized me, just as I recognized him.
He did know your face, yes.
And what's he doing snooping down here after me?
I don't know what on earth you're talking about.
Why can't he let sleeping dogs lie?
Really, Mr. Benson, unless you've got something to tell me,
I've got something to tell him, all right. So you let him know I'm here.
Dr. Morelle? Well, I'm afraid he's busy changing for dinner.
Better do as I say, miss, or it'll be the worse for him. Tell him I want to see him now.
Well,
Do as I say, or else.
Come in.
Oh, Dr. Morelle, the man from the garage, he's in the garden.
Young Benson?
Yes, he insists on seeing you.
Does he?
He thinks you're down here snooping after him.
An unfortunate chance that we should have encountered each other on the way.
He seems in a bit of a state about you.
Yes, perhaps I should have a word with him.
Hadn't I better come with you? Supposing he's got a gun or a knife.
I don't think you need have any fears for my safety.
Well, if you're sure you'll be all right.
I'll go and speak to him.
I should have changed my name and gone to live further away. Only changing a name isn't so easy. I had the chance of this garage business. Nobody tweaked me. But now you have to come down here.
What induces you to imagine that I have any interest in you?
Well, you were at the Old Bailey when I was convicted. When they tried to make out I'd killed that girl.
When they subsequently realized that there was a flaw in their case, the prosecution, as much as your own lawyers, were responsible for establishing your innocence. It may interest you to know that I added my voice to those who believe someone other than yourself was the murderer.
Then what are you doing here? You're not going to tell me it's a coincidence.
Coincidence has a long arm. My presence at Lower Ashton is concerned entirely with Professor Stenberg, and nothing whatever to do with you.
You expect me to believe that?
Who knows? Your curiosity may yet be satisfied.
They'll never get him now.
Destiny possesses plenty of patience. Good night, Benson, and I hope goodbye.
How does your cigar agree with you, Dr. Morelle?
Excellently, thank you, Professor.
Oh, they've got a most luxurious aroma.
Will you have some more coffee, Miss Frayle?
No, thank you.
I sometimes think of it as a commentary upon human existence. A cigar's aroma is more exciting than the actual flavor on the palate.
The shadow that proves to be more alluring than the substance.
I think it's the same about the smell of coffee. It's nicer than the taste.
Surely what we are discussing is the gulf between anticipation and realization. Another example is the prisoner's dream of freedom. Almost invariably, when that freedom is achieved, sooner or later, he will look back on his cell as a place of refuge against the troubles of the world, which naturally beset him beyond the prison walls.
An interesting idea, Doctor.
I suppose that's why you get unhappy love affairs.
I fail to see the comparison.
Well, I mean, while a girl is trying to get her man, she's thinking how wonderful it'll be when she's got him. When she has, she wonders if the trouble was worth it.
And vice versa, Miss Frayle.
Distance lends enchantment to the view. Oh, that sounds like Major Penfold's car. I forget to mention that he would be looking in tonight for a smoke and a chat. Excuse me. It's all right, Steppers. It's Major Penfold. I let him in. My dear Major, how nice to see you. Do come in.
Good evening, Professor. I'm a bit later than I meant to be, I'm afraid. Yes, the rehearsals went on much longer than usual.
Ah, yes, you must be very busy.
Up to my eyes, Professor, up to my eyes.
May I introduce Major Penfold, Miss Frayle. Miss Frayle, Major Penfold.
Good evening.
How do you do?
Dr. Morelle, Major Penfold.
Good evening. This is a great pleasure. Professor Stenberg told me you'd be here for the weekend, and believe me, I haven't dropped in for a spot of his brandy and a cigar. No, that's merely an excuse to meet you, Doctor.
Well, I am very flattered.
And you, of course, Miss Frayle.
Oh, thank you.
All the same, Professor, some brandy and a cigar wouldn't come amiss.
Of course, Major, of course. Major Penfold is the hub around which Lower Ashton's social life spins.
Yes, I try to take an interest in local affairs. You know, it's quite true.
Your brandy?
Oh, thank you.
Cigar?
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Yes, it was a pretty dead and alive hole when I came here. I thought I could do with a shot in the arm and all that, you know.
And you certainly have made things hum. Athletic club, bridge parties, flower show, church fetes, amateur theatricals.
That's what I'm up to my neck in now.
You've got a concert very soon, haven't you? We saw a poster on our way down.
Wednesday night as ever was. Star-studded entertainment. Pity you won't be here to see it.
Oh, what a shame. I'd love to.
Really, Miss Frayle? By the way, Professor, I haven't told you, have I? No, this will interest you, Dr. Morelle.
Well, indeed.
Yes, by this morning's post, a dramatic sketch for the show. Sent anonymously with 4 or 5-pound notes towards the church funds. Yes, if we'll perform it.
What an odd idea.
The author didn't give his name at all.
Not a clue. But it's a rattling good little play, yes. A real thriller. Just your cup of tea, Doctor.
It sounds most intriguing.
I had it typed out, only 2 characters, and gave it to my 2-star performers to study. Rehearsals tomorrow night after church. Tell you what, Dr. Morelle, you ought to come to the rehearsal. Yes. Give us your expert opinion.
No. We're returning to London tomorrow night.
Oh, pity. Might have amused you.
Oh, I'm sure it would be very thrilling.
Odd thing. Don't you think, this anonymous business? I suppose it isn't you, Professor Stenberg.
What's that, Major?
Who's written this thriller? Hiding your light under a bushel?
Me? I fear I don't possess quite that sort of talent.
I don't know. You do a lot of scribbling.
Well, I hardly think you would find it had any entertainment value.
Though I'm sure it's very useful in another way.
Thank you, Miss Frayle.
Why should he send it anonymously when he's so anxious to have it done? Hence the 20 quid bribe, so to speak.
Well, perhaps it isn't a man, perhaps it's a woman.
I fancy Major Penfold is right in assuming the author is male.
Well, what makes you say that?
Whatever imponderables may lie in the recesses of the feminine mind, one thing is certain. A woman would never go to the trouble indicated here deliberately to hide herself from the benefit of the ensuing publicity.
Well, not long ago there was a book by an anonymous author who turned out to be a woman. Oh, I forget her name.
You've proved my point, Miss Frayle. If she was anonymous, how was she revealed to be a woman?
Pretty smart of you, Dr. Morelle. I agree. It seems much more like that it's a man.
But what would be his motive?
Well, paradoxically, an attempt to fix attention upon himself. He feels impelled, on the one hand, to reveal to the world at large some innermost knowledge he possesses, while on the other, to stand back in the shadows and observe the effect of his action.
Anyway, it's a pity you can't come along and see us rehearsing tomorrow night.
Oh, couldn't we, Doctor?
Why don't you look in just before you leave?
Yes, we could do that.
Oh, well, very well, Miss Frayle, if it would interest you.
Oh, that's very good of you, Dr. Morelle. I'm sure that Major Penfold will be delighted.
Indeed, really most kind of you. Yes, it'll give us a big kick to have the great criminologist watch our efforts.
Are you acting in it yourself, Major?
No, I'm kept busy behind the scenes, yes. Seeing to the props and the rest of it. It's only a short dramatic sketch, but it certainly packs a punch.
Oh, I'll just go and see who that's for. Is that for me, Staples?
No, Professor. Someone wants to speak to Dr. Morelle.
Oh, Dr. Morelle. Ask him to hold on, will you? It's for you, Dr. Morelle.
Oh, thank you.
How does anyone know you're here? I deliberately told no one where you'd be.
If you'll excuse me.
Oh, I hope it doesn't mean the doctor will be called back to London.
Oh, so do I.
Me too. A bit of a letdown if you don't come to see our show after all.
Oh, we shall be awfully disappointed.
Dr. Morelle speaking.
It's Benson, Dr. Morelle. Robert Benson.
Oh, yes?
Dr. Morelle, I've got to see you.
Really? I can't imagine that it can be necessary. I've already reassured you about...
This is something that's happened since I saw you. You've got to help me.
I don't quite see how I could.
You can, believe me, or I wouldn't be phoning you. And when I explain it, you'll see.
But when?
As soon as possible, tonight.
This is preposterous.
Oh, look, Dr. Morelle, I'm talking from the garage. But I can meet you in about half an hour's time outside Professor Stenberg's house. We can talk there quietly.
In half an hour?
At 10. Make an excuse to get some fresh air. I'll be waiting at the drive gates.
Oh, this is most inconvenient.
I'll be there. 10 on the dot by the gate. And I beg of you to be there, too.
And this is supposed to be a quiet weekend.
Well, thanks for the nightcap, Professor. Yes, that brandy really hits the spot.
You'll have one for the road, Major?
Oh, no, no thanks. I'm driving. Here's Dr. Morelle.
Was it anything important, Dr. Morelle?
You haven't got to rush back to London tonight.
No, I'm glad to say no.
So we'll see you and Miss Frayle at the rehearsal tomorrow night.
Oh, we're looking forward to it.
You'll come along too, of course, Professor.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I'd like to.
Well, I must be on my way. Good night, Miss Frayle.
Good night, Major.
Good night, Doctor. Good night, Professor.
Good night, Major. Good night.
Is that you, Dr. Morelle?
It is.
It's me, Benson. Listen, Doctor. Someone in this town is out to ruin me. I thought I was safe here, but I was wrong. Someone knows who I am, and they intend to blow the gaff.
Haven't we been into this already?
I don't mean you. I'm sorry for the way I talked earlier on. No, this is someone else. Simply because I was accused of a murder I never did. After 2 years, when I built up my garage business and put the past behind me...
What evidence have you for all this?
It was tonight at the rehearsal of the show for the church funds. A dramatic sketch they're doing.
You are concerned with the local amateur theatricals?
Yes, always been keen on it. But this is a real blood-curdler. And you know what it's about? The murder of a young girl.
You mean the plot resembles your own case?
Word for word. Practically a replica of the scene between me and her that night.
You must bear in mind that dramatic plots are forever being devised by authors. It would not be unusual if one were imagined which would seem to fit the case involving you.
I tell you, this has got it off pat. It's uncanny. The place, the time, the very hour.
Those details came out at the time of the trial. The author might have been present or read the newspaper reports.
I know it's someone who's found out about me and deliberately means to ruin me here so that I'll have to clear out.
With what object?
I don't know. But listen, Dr. Morelle, there's something else I haven't told you about this play. I've been given the part of the murderer.
Business, Dr. Morelle.
Yes, I somehow imagined it might intrigue you. Where is Professor Stenberg?
Oh, he went off to his study for a few moments. He works late too, Doctor.
Quite, Miss Frayle.
What an odd coincidence that Major Penfold should have been talking about the dramatic sketch.
Benson is the only young man in the Dramatic Society, which explains why he was given the role.
Then it must have been written by someone locally who'd not only discovered who he was, but calculated that he would have to reenact his own experiences.
That, my dear Miss Frayle, would appear to be a reasonable deduction.
Oh, what a rotten thing to do. And what for?
Various motives offer themselves, but it still might be that which persuades the author to remain anonymous.
You mean what you were saying about it being someone who really wants to attract attention to himself? I don't understand it.
Man's darkest continent is the human mind, and its explorer encounters vast, arid deserts of inhibition and secret fear.
Yes, Doctor. Anyway, Mr. Benson's going through with it and playing the part?
That is what I urged him to do. To run away would simply provide his unseen adversary with the satisfaction of knowing that he'd scared him off. To stay and face the consequences might discourage any further attempt upon his peace of mind.
You're absolutely right, Doctor, of course.
I'm gratified to learn that you are in agreement with me.
If he does it, he's very brave.
He might also discover who's behind all this. I promised to call at his garage in the morning. He seems to have some notion the play holds a clue to the author's identity.
Oh, it's you, Professor. I thought I heard someone outside the door.
I hope you enjoyed your breath of fresh air, Doctor.
Thank you. It was quite refreshing.
Forgive me deserting you, but I'm afraid I'm growing increasingly absent-minded. I have to make a note of things when I think of them. Otherwise, I completely forget.
Ah, I'm sure Dr. Morelle could offer some explanation for that, Professor.
Ah, the inroads made by advancing age upon the mental faculties, Doctor? Oh, by the way, I'm sorry about Major Penfold. I'm afraid he can be a bit of a bore.
Not at all.
I rather liked him.
He's done a tremendous amount for the town, but I don't know that he ought to have inflicted his amateur theatricals on you.
I'm sure we're both quite looking forward to it, aren't we, Dr. Morelle?
Quite, Miss Frayle.
I can tell you that your presence at the rehearsal will be something of an event for Lower Ashton Dramatic Society.
Mr. Benson's waiting for us.
Good morning, Dr. Morelle.
You've met my secretary, Miss Frayle?
Yes, we have met. How do you do?
Good morning, Mr. Benson.
Come into the office. My assistant will take over for a while.
Come along, Miss Frayle.
There you are. There's the little drama, Dr. Morelle.
Thank you.
Only a few pages, as you see, but they're full of dynamite.
Oh, what's it called? Act of Violence. Oh, that's a gripping title.
It's gripping, and no mistake, in every sense of the word. Just you read the lines before the curtain, Dr. Morelle.
Shall I read it with you, Doctor?
Yes, go on, Miss Frayle. Go ahead.
Oh, this is really rather fun, isn't it? Fancy, I've never acted with you before, Doctor.
It isn't much of a part for the girl, as you'll see.
Oh, no love scenes?
Now, come along, Miss Frayle. I'll begin here. You haven't been quite so smart, up to date, my girl.
Why do you say that?
You've told me you live by yourself, that you haven't any relatives, and you won't be missed until you go back to work next week.
But why should I be missed then? You talk as if I'm not going back to work.
Do I? How strange of me. Or am I being psychic?
What's the matter? Why are you staring at me in that funny way?
If you don't want to look at me, look at yourself in the mirror.
But what is this? I don't like it. I'm frightened.
Don't turn away. You'll see it all in the mirror.
What's that you're taking out of your pocket?
You can see it in the mirror.
It's a pair of nylons. Oh, the present you promised to give me.
You're mistaken. It was only one of a pair of nylons.
But what's the use of one stocking?
It's the finest quality. See how soft it is.
Keep away.
Feel the texture.
No.
Round your throat.
Don't.
That's it, Doctor. And that's how the real thing went, almost word for word.
Oh, how very creepy.
You can say that again, Miss Frayle. Well, when I read it over last evening, my blood ran cold.
In actual fact, what happened, as I remember you described it in the witness box, was that you put the stocking round her neck to frighten her.
Well, that's all I did. And then I left her.
And the real murderer came back afterwards.
Yes, miss. A few minutes afterwards. And strangled her with the stocking.
I always maintained that the real murderer was listening outside the door. He hid when you came out and then went in.
She has certainly had plenty of men friends. All sorts. Young and middle-aged, rich and stupid, and the brainy sort.
What are you thinking, Dr. Morelle?
Miss Frayle?
There's that look on your face.
Merely a notion that has occurred to me. Then we shall be at this evening's rehearsal, Benson.
Just to give you moral support.
I'm going through with it. Dr. Morelle was right.
I know, he always is.
I'll show this anonymous so-and-so that Robert Benson doesn't scare so easily.
There is one step you can take by way of an experiment which might prove fruitful.
Huh? What's that?
Listen carefully and follow my instructions.
Oh, I really can't wait, Doctor, for the rehearsal this evening.
It should provide a certain amount of interest.
All the same, it still baffles me that anyone could go to such lengths.
It is characteristic of the twisted mind to seek to achieve its purpose by twisted means. The author of this play, not inappropriately titled Act of Violence, evidently bears some dark secret in his soul whose weight is proving too much for his conscience. He can expiate his guilt only by making full confession in public.
Oh, it's most fascinating in a horrid kind of a way. Oh, there are the drive gates ahead. Oh, what a lovely old house the Professor's got.
I'll turn the car in here.
Oh, and there's Professor Stenberg waiting for us.
So I see.
He's coming with us to the rehearsal tonight, isn't he?
Yes, Professor Stenberg will doubtless be quite interested in what transpires.
Hello, Professor, we're back.
Hello, Miss Frayle.
You haven't been quite so smart up to date, my girl.
Why do you say that?
You've told me you live by yourself, that you haven't any relatives, and you won't be missed until you go back to work next week.
I think you acted the part just as well, Dr. Morelle.
Quiet.
But why should I be missed then? You talk as if I'm not going back to work.
Do I? How strange of me. Or am I being psychic?
What's the matter?
Why are you staring at me in that funny way?
And I was as good as her.
You don't have to look at me.
Something's different, Doctor. Shh. There's no mirror.
Quiet.
But what is this? I don't like it. I'm frightened.
Don't turn away.
What's that you're taking out of your pocket?
You can see for yourself.
Oh, it's a pair of nylons. Oh, the present you promised me.
You're mistaken. It's only one of a pair of nylons.
What's the use of one stocking?
It's the finest quality. See how soft it is.
Keep away.
Feel the texture around your throat.
No, don't. Oh!
Oh, that's the curtain. What did you think of it, Professor?
Very dramatic. Everyone will be hanging on to their seats on Wednesday night.
But the ending is a bit different. Dr. Morelle, where are you going?
A word of congratulation to Major Penfold.
He's bound to be at the back of the stage, running the show.
I'll find him.
I'll stay here and keep the Professor company.
Yes, do that, Miss Frayle.
Thank you, Miss Frayle.
Are you looking for someone?
Major Penfold.
Oh, behind the scenery on the other side of the stage.
Thank you. And may I congratulate you on your performance?
Oh, how very sweet of you.
Hello, Major Penfold.
Dr. Morelle.
May I offer my congratulations to you? But you appear a trifle agitated.
Of course, the whole thing was ruined.
Indeed?
The mirror. There was no mirror. He should have strangled her while she was looking at him in the mirror, and it wasn't there.
Was its presence so important?
Don't you understand? That's what really happened. That's why I wrote it. That's why... Oh, my heavens, what have I said?
Nothing that surprises me, Major Penfold.
You mean you knew? You knew all along?
It was evident that the anonymous author was someone living locally. I had already reached the conclusion that he felt an obsessive urge to confess some deadly secret. From my own inside knowledge, it became obvious to me, moreover, that the author knew a little too much about the Robert Benson murder.
My head's spinning. I must get some air.
The position of the mirror, that was something which no one but the murderer could have known.
I must open the door.
It was to be your fate to come here to live, to encounter the very man who might have hanged for your crime.
You can't prove anything. Leave me alone.
Your conscience will never let you rest.
I can't breathe. Let me get some air.
Oh, there you are, Dr. Morelle. Well, what did you think of it?
Most satisfactory. You followed my instructions to the letter.
Oh, was that the Major who went out?
He was in need of a little air.
Well, where's he going off in his car? What the devil, we've got more rehearsing to do.
You needn't trouble yourself about act of violence. It was a case of one performance only.
He's driving at a lick. What's come over him? He's stepping on it. What were you saying, Doctor?
Doctor, oh, there you are. Hello, Mr. Benson. Where's Major Penfold?
Well, he's just driven off in his car as if the devil was on his tail.
What's that?
It's the Major. He's smashed his car.
That flash in the sky. It's caught fire. You can see the flames.
You saw the crazy way he drove that car, Doctor.
Yes.
You think he did it purposely?
Dr. Morelle, what's happened?
He did. Major Penfold deliberately drove to his death.
That was another adventure in a BBC series featuring Ernest Dudley's famous character, Dr. Morelle, and, of course, his secretary, Miss Frayle. The artists taking part were Dr. Morelle, Cecil Parker, Miss Frayle, Sheila Sim, Professor Stenberg, Martin Miller, Robert Benson, Trevor Martin, Major Penfold, Rafe Truman, and other parts were played by Will Leighton and Louise Gainsborough. This recorded program was produced by Leslie Bridgmont.
Good morning, Mr. Hampton.
Good morning. Mr. Ramgo is expecting me.
I know, sir. Will you please come this way?
Nice and cool in here out of the street?
Yes, it is very cool in here. Mr. Ramgo is in his office. Mr. Hampton to see you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Hampton. This is a great pleasure.
Good morning, Mr. Ramgo.
I had heard that you were in Bombay.
The news gets around, eh?
When it concerns an eminent lover of precious stones such as yourself, Naturally, we hear of it.
Very nicely put. I always love coming to Bombay. I'm on my way home to London, catching this afternoon's plane.
And of what service can I be to you, Mr. Hampton?
I'd like you to look at this. I bought it yesterday.
Thank you.
I know you're the one jeweler in Bombay who can identify it.
The Black Ruby.
That's what I hoped you'd say. A Cabochon ruby. Weight 202 carats. Color almost violet.
I know all about it. I handled it once. There is no other ruby like it in all the world.
I backed my hunch. I knew I'd got a bargain.
It depends what you mean by a bargain, sir. I would not buy it at any price. Money is not everything, even to a jeweler. Mr. Hampton, do not keep it.
But what's wrong? What you don't mean...
Get rid of it, no matter what the cost. Give it away. It is not called the Black Ruby for nothing. It will bring you disaster and death.
BBC presents A Case for Dr. Morelle, another adventure by Ernest Dudley, with Cecil Parker as the famous Dr. Morelle and Sheila Sim as his secretary, Miss Frayle. The Black Ruby.
What's that noise? Sounds as if something's gone wrong. One of the engines.
What? Oh, I can't see anything out of this window.
Well, I've flown enough to know something's up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Rawlinson speaking to you. I have to report that we have an emergency. One of the engines has just cut out. Now a second has let us down.
Ah, I knew it was something.
What the devil's going to happen, eh?
Well, we'll soon know.
We also have what we term a runaway propeller, and we have come too far over the Indian Ocean to turn back. So I intend to ditch.
I hope there are no sharks down there.
Oh, I can't swim. Oh, I can't swim.
There is no cause for alarm. A ship is below us. We are in radio contact with her, and she is aware of our plight. Please put on your life jacket, fasten your safety belt, and follow the instructions of the stewardess. Don't panic, and good luck.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. You're Mr. Hampton?
Yes. Dr. Morelle's expecting me.
Yes, I know, Mr. Hampton. Come in.
What are you staring at?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just...
What?
I can't help wondering what it must be like to have gone through what you did and find yourself back in London alive.
Feels pretty good, Miss Frayle.
Oh, I'm so sorry if it annoyed you. Will you come...
Mr. Hampton, that what you're telling me is merely the after effects of shock. Your wife must have been profoundly affected when she heard about the airplane.
No, it wasn't until after she knew about the Black Ruby. Now, she's convinced, Dr. Morelle, this hoodoo threatens our lives. And, of course, she's got the air crash to support it.
And your wife is adamant that you get rid of it?
It's ludicrous to believe an inanimate object can possibly influence anyone's life.
I fear that superstition dies hard. I don't have to tell you how many people agree with your wife.
The jeweler I took it to in Bombay to okay it told me he wouldn't handle it at any price. Warned me it would bring death and disaster. I haven't told my wife that or about the other chap.
Who was that?
The man I bought it from. Now, he came to my hotel just before I left and confessed he hadn't told me about its evil reputation. I privately decided he wanted to get it back for another customer who was offering more than I'd pay.
Possibly. You have no reason to believe that there is any other motive behind your wife's objection to its remaining in your possession?
Sonia is a bit neurotic, has been for some time.
Before this present matter?
Yes, she's been very nervy, full of silly fears.
To what do you attribute her state of mind?
Well, I'm a rich man. Perhaps that's the trouble with Sonia. I mean, she's got everything she could want, money and security.
The two are not necessarily synonymous. For example, the fact that you yourself are wealthy enough to be able to follow your bent may be a reason for your wife to feel insecure.
I don't understand.
You travel in quest of precious stones such as this ruby.
Yes, I do.
Does your wife accompany you on these journeys?
Oh, Sonia hates traveling. She's not particularly interested in precious stones.
Consequently, your marriage suffers from long absences away from her. You appear independent of her, and a situation is created in which the seeds of insecurity are sown in your wife's mind.
I hadn't looked at it that way before, but it's become much graver the past few days since I got back. Sonia's deadly serious about this, and I'm afraid she might do something drastic.
Has your wife any special interests with which to occupy her mind?
Well, she does plenty of entertaining. I mean, lots of friends. Too many, unfortunately.
What is so unfortunate about making friends?
Well, she's an extremely attractive woman, Doctor. Plenty of men always around her.
I see.
I mean, one chap she's got in tow now. Well, I don't mean there's anything to it, but he's a bit of a no-good. Doctor, I was wondering, I don't know how to get Sonia to come and consult you as a patient.
I understand.
But I'm giving a little dinner party the day after tomorrow. I'd like you to come and meet her. I don't know if you're interested in precious stones.
I should like to meet your wife.
Fine. I'm very grateful to you.
I'll confirm with Miss Frayle if I'm free that evening. She's in the laboratory. Miss Frayle?
Coming, Doctor. Oh, dear.
What is it?
Let it test you. I nearly knocked it down.
Well, I shouldn't do that, my dear Miss Frayle. We don't want to be annihilated by poisonous gas.
Oh, you don't mean, Doctor?
Oh, no, it's all right, Miss Frayle. I was merely joking.
Oh, you made my heart turn over.
As if I would leave anything of that nature there while you were about.
Oh.
Have I any evening engagement the day after tomorrow?
I don't think so, Doctor. I'll just check.
Are you interested in precious stones, Miss Frayle?
Oh, they're very pretty, yes, but I've never owned any, except a brooch my grandmother gave me, which I'm afraid I lost.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You wouldn't be if you'd seen the brooch.
Yes, it was rather hideous.
I was wondering if you'd care to come to dinner with Dr. Morelle. You might like to see this ruby I've been telling him about.
Oh, I'd love to. No, we've no engagement, Doctor, that evening.
Good. I'd expect you both.
I'll show you up.
There you are, driver.
Thank you, sir.
Sonia, you there?
I'm just coming down.
Can I give you a sherry?
No, thanks.
Sure?
Yes, quite sure.
Oh, I'll go and give myself one. By the way, I've asked Dr. Morelle to our little dinner party.
Oh, yes?
And Miss Frayle, his secretary, is coming too.
I wish you weren't asking anyone at all.
Why, Sonia?
You know why. And you know why you're asking the others. Just to show off that horrible ruby.
Oh, Sonia, my dear, do
Oh, you
try.
can laugh at my
But I'm not
fears.
laughing. It's only that I want to reassure you.
You can do that by getting rid of it. I won't feel safe until you do.
But, Sonia...
Even if you have to give it away. If you loved me, if I really meant anything to you, you'd do as I asked. What's that?
The ceiling.
The chandelier.
Look out! Quick! It's all right, Sonia. You're all right.
It might have killed us. It might have killed us.
It must have been too heavy for the ceiling.
It's the ruby. The black ruby.
Lovely, Sonia.
Oh, dear. You always say that to me.
Well, I always mean it. That's what's so marvelous about you. It doesn't matter if I see you for lunch or if we go racing or... Oh, well, like you are now. In that heavenly dress, you always look wonderful.
I'm glad you liked my dress. It's the first time out.
I hope you didn't mind my nipping in before the others arrived. It was a chance to see you alone.
No, of course not. Will you have some more sherry?
Yes, thanks. What's this about this Dr. Morelle coming?
Oh, I suppose Guy thinks I need a psychiatrist. You know, this fuss I'm making about his ruby.
Doesn't trust your wifely intuition.
Oh, let's not talk about it. I know something terrible's going to happen, but it's no good.
I want to talk about it, Sonia. I want to try and help you.
But if Guy won't get rid of it, what can you do?
Well, I don't know exactly, but at least you know I'm sympathetic.
You're awfully kind, Aubrey.
How can I help it? You know I'd do anything for you.
You shouldn't talk like that.
I can't bear to think of you worrying, Sonia. Supposing something did happen, I agree with you. This thing may have some ghastly hoodoo on it. Surely the chandelier yesterday wasn't...
that was terrible. We might easily have been killed.
If I were your husband, I wouldn't hesitate...
Hello, Aubrey.
Oh, hello, Guy.
The others haven't arrived yet, Sonia, my dear?
No.
I was a little early, I'm afraid. My watch was fast.
Got a drink, I see.
Yes, thank you.
What wouldn't you hesitate about if you were Sonia's husband?
Huh?
Weren't you saying something when I came in?
Yes, I was telling him about the chandelier crashing down.
Yes, it sounds a darn near thing.
It was horrible.
But I can't attribute it to anything supernatural. I mean, if that's what Sonia's trying to make you believe.
You seem pretty sure of that.
Do you believe in the evil eye?
I don't know that I believe in it. I like to keep an open mind.
Well, as I've tried to explain to Sonia, the blessed chandelier might have fallen at any time. The fool who put it up screwed it into the laughing plaster instead of beams it should have done.
That sounds like Bill and Helen. Oh, hello, Sonia. Hello. Hello, Guy.
Nice to see you, Helen. Hello, Bill.
Hello, Helen, darling. How nice of you to come. Hello, Bill.
Oh, good evening, Sonia. Oh, hello, Guy. Good evening, Aubrey.
Hello there. Hello, Helen.
Why, it's dear Aubrey.
Well, I hope it won't be too stodgy an evening for you.
Stodgy? What's stodgy about a whacking great ruby?
When are we going to see it, Guy? Well, I'm going to keep you in suspense for a bit.
Must we see it at all?
Sherry for you, Helen?
Oh, thank you, Guy.
You use the cocktail, won't you, Bill?
Oh, thanks. What's the matter, Helen, darling?
It's nothing. What is it? It's nothing, really.
I wasn't sure that we ought to have come in.
Do shut up, Bill. I'm perfectly all
Knock
right.
back some sherry. Come on, it'll do you good.
Here's Miss Frayle and Dr. Morelle.
Good evening, Mr. Hampton.
Now, let me introduce everybody. Now, this is my wife.
How good of you both to come. How do you do? How do you do?
Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, Dr. Morelle, Miss Frayle.
Good evening. How do you do?
Good evening.
Good evening.
And this is Mr. Aubrey Green.
Oh, hello there.
It's all right, Sonia. I hadn't forgotten.
How do you do, Mr. Green?
Good evening.
What about a drink, Miss Frayle? A sherry or a cocktail?
Thank you. I'd like a sherry.
Doctor?
I would like some sherry.
You know, this is a very great thrill for us, Dr. Morelle, the famous criminologist in person.
It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Well, I suppose you're used to being asked about crooks and crimes, eh, Doctor?
Well, the subject seems to arouse a certain amount of interest.
It must be fascinating.
And what about you, Miss Frayle? How does this life of excitement agree with you?
Oh, one grows used to it, you know.
I fear Miss Frayle is growing increasingly blasé.
But I expect it all becomes routine, coping with criminals and misfits.
Even murderers don't come off a conveyor belt, Mrs. Hampton. Each is an individual human being.
You know, I bet you're always being asked the old jackpot question, Dr. Morelle. Why are you so interested in a lot of thugs and killers?
Yes, it's a question that often comes up.
And what's the answer, Doctor?
There, but for the grace of God, go I.
You mean anybody might be a criminal, whoever he is, according to the way he's brought up?
In other words, environment makes the murderer.
Precisely.
Well, shall we go in and have dinner?
Jolly good idea. I'm starving.
Well, come along then, everybody.
Brandy, Guy.
Glad you like it.
Oh.
What's the matter, Aubrey? Were you hoping he'd ask you to have some more?
Yes, I was rather.
Oh, don't be silly, Guy. Of course you can have some more.
Of course, my dear Aubrey.
Thank you.
How about you, Dr. Morelle?
No, thank you.
Would you like some more coffee, Miss Frayle?
Yes, just a little, please.
Bill, another spot of brandy?
Oh, I'm fine, thanks.
I'd like some more coffee. Here you are, Helen. Oh, thanks.
I say, isn't it about time the big moment arrived?
Ah, yes, the ruby.
Oh, I'm longing to see it.
Are you, Miss Frayle?
It sounds fabulous. Guy, you're not really going to show it around?
At least there's no enormous chandelier hanging over our head.
Please, I wish you wouldn't.
Oh, he must now, Sonia. It'd be like asking us here under false pretenses. Don't you agree, Dr. Morelle?
I should be interested to see it.
Dr. Morelle, you say it's a lot of nonsense that it can affect the lives of my husband or me.
On the contrary, I would say that it has obviously made a great impact upon you.
Well, it would certainly affect my bank manager's view of me if I owned the thing.
It's funny, but I've never been mad about jewelry. I don't know why.
Oh, very convenient for your boyfriend, Miss Frayle.
To you, Dr. Morelle, I suppose I'm being foolish and hysterical, believing that merely by its presence here, the ruby can cause something dreadful to happen.
There have been many jewels which have supposedly exerted a baleful influence over their owners, rubies particularly, perhaps because of their blood-like color, and they originate from the mysterious...
The Orloff ruby, for instance, and the Great Mogul.
Despite these legends that have grown up about them, however, examination of the facts fails to support the notion that either good or evil follow in their wake. Obviously, they attract violence because of their value, and to possess them, people have gone to extreme lengths.
Even murder.
Oh, so it's not the ruby, it's those who want it who caused the trouble, eh?
What about that dreadful plane crash? If Guy hadn't had the ruby on him, it would never have happened. And the chandelier yesterday.
The accidents you mentioned both have logical explanations.
Well, let's look at this wicked old jewel anyway. Come on, Guy, I'll take a chance.
Yes. Looking at it can't do any harm, surely.
I think you're mad.
Sonia, please.
Oh, do show it us, old chap.
Right. Here it is.
Have you had it in your pocket all the time?
Yes, in this little case.
So that's why you spilled the soup.
Open the case, Guy.
There you are.
Oh,
So.
it's absolutely marvelous.
Wonderful. It's such a fantastic color.
Almost, well, more violet than red.
Well, that's why it's called the black ruby, because it's so dark.
One reason, yes.
It's because of its black history. Because of the death and tragedy it's brought.
May I hold it, Mr. Hampton?
Of course. Look, I'll take it out of its case.
Thank you.
Don't drop it, Miss Frayle.
Oh, of course I won't, Doctor. Oh, it's just like having something alive there in one's hand. Almost as if it's breathing.
Breathing fire, eh, Dr. Morelle?
Very impressive.
Now, after you, Miss Frayle, it's the only chance I'll ever get of holding so much money in the hollow of my hand.
There you are, Mr. Green.
Thank you. Oh, yes, it certainly is out of this world. What's its weight, Guy?
202 carats.
How old would it be?
It's been in one Maharaja's family for 300 years.
Have you still got it, Aubrey? Helen would like to see it, wouldn't you, Helen?
Hey, Helen, what's wrong?
Oh, what's the matter, Mrs. Reynolds?
She's faint. Helen, darling. Yeah, Dr. Morelle, quick.
If somebody would open a window...
It's got a bit stuffy in here, yes.
I'll open it.
Oh, that's better. Lovely cool air.
Is she all right, Doctor?
There's nothing to worry about.
She's coming round.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, it's all right, darling.
Not to worry, my dear. You're among friends now.
I suddenly felt everything went black.
Just a slight fainting attack.
I've never done anything like this before.
Oh, I thought you weren't looking so good before we came.
Feeling better?
I just think I'd like to rest.
Yes. I'll take you home.
Yes, please. I'm so sorry, Sonia. Do forgive me, Guy.
Well, of course. So sorry it happened. I'll get a taxi right away. There's plenty on the corner.
Would you like me to come along with you, Bill?
Oh, I don't think it's necessary.
No, no trouble at all, just in case you need a hand.
Can you stand up all right, Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Hang on to me,
I'll get and see if Guy's got a taxi.
Is there anything I should give her, Doctor?
Just rest. I'm sure she'll be perfectly recovered by morning.
I feel all right. Really, I do.
Taxi's here, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Aubrey. Oh, come on, darling. The taxi's here. Well, good night, Doctor. Good night, Miss Frayle.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm sure Mrs. Reynolds will soon be better.
Oh, good night, Sonia. I'm so sorry about all this.
Do forgive me for breaking up the party. Good night, Helen. I'll phone you in the morning. And now I suppose, Dr. Morelle, you still think that horrible ruby can't affect people.
Well, where did Mr. Hampton put it? Oh, it's there in the case.
My answer remains the same as before, Mrs. Hampton. You cannot blame its presence for the room's overheated temperature, which contributed towards the fainting attack.
Oh, poor thing. She did go out suddenly.
Sorry about that, Dr. Morelle, Miss Frayle.
Is Helen all right?
Yes, she's gone home with Bill and Aubrey.
Aubrey?
Yes, Helen.
I see.
He thought Helen might need his help.
Oh, well. But, Guy, for the last time, before anything really terrible happens, will you get rid of it?
By the way, where is it?
Oh, it's in its little case.
Oh, did you put it there?
No, I thought you did. What is it?
Guy?
It isn't here. The ruby's gone.
Well, this is it, Doctor. The Reynolds house.
Wait for us, driver.
Okay, sir.
Come along, Miss Frayle.
Oh, I can't think why all this mad rush, Dr. Morelle.
No, Miss Frayle?
No, I mean, well, where's the doorbell? Oh, you've rung it. I mean, well, if Mr. Reynolds took it or his wife, well, they must have come back home, so they're bound to be there.
Hello, Dr. Morelle.
Hello, Mr. Green.
I was just going.
How's Mrs. Reynolds?
I thought I'd come along to see that all was well.
Helen's much better. She'll be quite fit tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so glad.
She's upstairs with her husband.
You were about to leave?
Yes, I was. I heard the bell, you see.
We've got a taxi. Perhaps we could give you a lift.
No, I don't suppose I'm going your way.
Oh, no. Perhaps you're not.
In any case, I'd sooner walk, get some fresh air, all that.
I wonder if you'd be good enough to mention to Mrs. Reynolds that I'm here.
Yes, of course.
Who's there, Aubrey?
Oh, that's Bill coming down now.
Oh, it's you, Dr. Morelle.
And Miss Frayle.
How's your wife?
Helen's... Well, I wasn't expecting you, Doctor.
No, I called in case Mrs. Reynolds wanted any further attention.
No, she's all right. That is...
What is it, Bill?
You look a little pale yourself.
It's the shock, I suppose, and now you turning up, Dr. Morelle.
Oh, we didn't mean to bother you.
Oh, no, of course not. It's not that. It's only that... Well, since you're here, Doctor, you might as well know.
Your wife isn't really ill?
She's not ill, Miss Frayle. She's... Look at that, Dr. Morelle.
Quite interesting.
The Black Ruby.
But how did... Where did that come from?
Well, you see, Doctor, I've had a bit of a business setback. Oh, it'll work out all right, but Helen was somehow scared that I'd had it. Went on about not being able to face giving up everything. I tried to explain that we weren't going to end up in the gutter, that it'd work out, but... Well, there it was.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Then, before we came out tonight, she started talking about this ruby. Some idea that if only it was ours, I'd be saved from ruin. I didn't think that she was serious. And then I realized that she was. That she had some idea of getting hold of it.
Well, there really is the evil eye on that thing, isn't there? It's brought nothing but trouble.
I think you've got something there. Here, Dr. Morelle, you'd better take it.
Thank you.
Oh, Doctor, don't touch it.
I am convinced, Miss Frayle, that I'm impervious to its baleful powers. I don't think it'll burn a hole in my pocket.
Oh, dear.
She must have slipped it into the pocket of her dress, and then...
You mean she pretended to pass out as a cover-up?
Oh, I suppose so.
Oh, she certainly acted the part very well. I wouldn't have dreamed she was faking it.
I know. It isn't like her at all.
Her faint wasn't pretense, but perfectly genuine. I should have thought that was apparent enough.
I'm sure of it, poor thing.
Well, perhaps it was the strain after she'd realized what she'd done.
It could be.
And what makes it worse, Doctor, is that when I found it, she pretended that she didn't know about it, that it must have got there by mistake. Or...
Or what?
That I had stolen it.
And it was the shock of its discovery and her belief that you were responsible which caused her to faint?
Yes, I suppose so. Of course, it's ludicrous. I wasn't even sitting next to her.
Oh, no, you were sitting next to me.
Where is your wife?
Well, she's gone to bed. She won't speak to me until I've returned the ruby to Guy Hampton and admitted that I took it.
And you propose doing that?
Well, what else would you expect me to do? Even if she'd admitted taking it herself.
That reveals a very commendable side to your nature. But your self-sacrifice is hardly necessary.
What do you mean?
Merely that by your action, you would be shielding the wrong person.
Wrong person?
It wasn't your wife who took the ruby.
Wasn't Helen? Well, then who?
Who, Dr. Morelle?
Are you absolutely gasping for that fresh air, Mr. Green?
Well, I only...
Didn't it occur to you, Mr. Reynolds, that Mr. Green's interest in your wife's welfare was a trifle overdone?
What do you mean?
What are you getting at, Doctor?
From the amount of attention you were giving Mrs. Hampton during dinner, I should have thought you made it apparent where your interest lay.
Look here, Dr. Morelle.
Added to which, it was Mrs. Reynolds to whom you sat next after dinner. It was you who slipped that ruby into her pocket.
What?
With the intention of recovering it from her subsequently.
Why, you rotten thief!
When your wife detected its presence, Mr. Reynolds, she mistakenly believed you to have taken it and fainted from shock. That was why Mr. Green switched his attentions to her and insisted upon accompanying her home.
That's true. You've never shown any interest in Helen before. It's always Sonia that you've chased. Well, the idea of leaving her just to help me see my wife home's utterly phony.
Well, I suppose I'd better act the gentleman and admit it. You're bang on the target, Dr. Morelle. I did take it.
Oh, how awful.
Why,
I'm sorry. I'm a bit broke, that's all. It was just a sudden impulse. A crazy idea. I can't say how deeply I regret it.
You'd have let Helen take the blame.
Oh, that was just bad luck. I meant to get it away from her in the taxi.
What a swine you are.
So, what are you going to do about it, Dr. Morelle?
That remains a matter for Mr. Hampton to decide. Meanwhile, I'll leave him to your tender mercies, Mr. Reynolds, whilst I return the ruby.
I'll take care of him, all right.
Come along, Miss Frayle.
Yes, Doctor, I... Isn't the taxi driver going a bit fast, Doctor?
Is he, Miss Frayle? I hadn't noticed.
Oh, well, what a horrid man that Mr. Green is, Dr. Morelle. Do you think Mr. Hampton will put the police onto him?
It's unlikely. I fancy he'll prefer to avoid any scandal that might result.
Oh, really? Does this taxi have to take the corners on two wheels? After all, we've got the precious ruby now.
If it makes you nervous, Miss Frayle, you might ask the driver to slacken speed a trifle.
Yes, I think I will. Doctor, that car!
uninjured, Miss Frayle?
Yes, Doctor, I think so. Are you?
You all right in here?
Well, it isn't your fault if we are.
That car, the way it come round that corner.
I expect it couldn't be helped, driver. The ruby, Dr. Morelle. It's the black ruby.
I'm sure I'm very sorry.
What are you talking about?
Oh, don't you see? The hoodoo.
Really, Miss Frayle?
The evil eye. It's working. Oh, please, let's get it back to Mr. Hampton quick, before both of us are killed or something dreadful.
Do calm yourself.
It's the black ruby. Disaster and death. That's what it brings to anyone who has it. Disaster and death.
How long into my study, Dr. Morelle? You've been very quick.
Oh, not quick enough, Mr. Hampton, I can tell you.
Oh, what do you mean? Here, sit down, Miss Frayle. You look a bit shaken.
Oh, not quick enough to get that horrible ruby back to you.
What do you mean, you've got it?
Of course Dr. Morelle's got it. He's brought it back with him.
But it's marvelous, Doctor. Who taken it?
As I suspected, when I observed that young man become suddenly solicitous towards Mrs. Reynolds.
Aubrey Green. Yes, I noticed him change his interest to Helen. Why, now, rotten crook. Wait till I tell Sonia this. She's gone to bed. She's pretty upset.
I understand.
Oh, Doctor, do please give it to him.
Very well. Miss Frayle.
What is it?
What's wrong, Doctor?
I somehow fancy you'll have a further item of news with which to acquaint your wife. Look.
Oh, the ruby.
Smashed to pieces.
It must have happened in the taxi crash.
Taxi crash?
Yes, our taxi hit a car, or a car hit us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was thrown against the door.
Well, it's all to do with the ruby.
But that's just it. It can't be the black ruby at all.
What?
A genuine ruby's terribly hard to break.
Precisely.
That chap in Bombay I got it from. When he came round to my hotel after I'd seen the jeweler, he must have switched the real black ruby with a fake.
No doubt that is what occurred.
It isn't the black ruby after all.
So there was no hoodoo, no evil eye on it. The air crash, the chandelier.
The taxi.
Nothing to do with it.
Perhaps this will at any rate convince your wife that the only injury anyone can suffer from the evil eye or hoodoo powers is that which they bring upon themselves for believing in such foolish superstition.
That was another adventure in a BBC series featuring Ernest Dudley's famous character, Dr. Morelle, and, of course, his secretary, Miss Frayle. The artists taking part were Dr. Morelle, Cecil Parker, Miss Frayle, Sheila Sim, Guy Hampton, Norman Wooland, Sonia Hampton, Virginia Winter, Helen Reynolds, Louise Gainsborough, Bill Reynolds, Richard Bebb, Aubrey Green, Desmond Carrington, an airline captain and other parts, John Baker. This recorded program was produced by Leslie Bridgmont.